New at 11, a group of teenagers terrorizing people in San Francisco. There are multiple investigations into unprovoked attacks. The latest one over the weekend, with police making some arrests.
So if you guys are familiar with media doublespeak, then you should know exactly what is meant when the local news affiliate over in San Francisco opens their segment by saying that a group of teens have been arrested in insert whatever city. Now, of course, we have another local news affiliate that gives an equally vague and ambiguous descriptor, referring to them as young girls.
And new at 10, San Francisco police say they have arrested a group of young girls over the weekend after a series of unprovoked attacks in different parts of the city this month. In at least one case, the victim is also a teenager.
But of course, we're told throughout this local news segment that since one of the victims is also a teen, that these are in fact teen girls that have been arrested in connection with these series of assaults that, by the way, date back to early July. And I think this is an important point that I need to highlight throughout the course of this particular video, which is that the segments that I'm highlighting are from July 29th of 2025. So the end of July, these local news affiliates decided to report on 3 arrests made. However, there were assaults that dated way back to the beginning of July. In fact, one of the Reddit posts that I'm going to reference from one of the victims' mother actually dates back to July 11th, and this included key information that could have helped us solve the case, identify the perpetrators, like photographs in high quality in broad daylight of said perpetrators. But in addition to that, you're also going to find out that there was surveillance video that ultimately ended up leading to the arrests of these youths, of these teenagers, that was also not made available to the public. So a bunch of these assaults that happened later on, and there's about 5 or 6 that right now they believe that these are the perpetrators of, they're on the police. They're on the Reddit moderators who decided to delete videos and photographs of the suspects in order to avoid accusations of evil white racism. And what's crazy about this is that we find out through the local news reporting that the victims were overwhelmingly Asian. So you're essentially allowing Asians to be attacked, probably based on racial motivation, in order to not seem racist against black people who happen to be the attackers in this particular case. And this is what I want to talk about today. What is not being shown to us, what is not being said, but more importantly, because obviously there are some precautions that are taken in order to protect the identity of youths post their arrest. And again, they're innocent until proven guilty. What was not shown to us prior to these later attacks, because there is a good chance that the high quality photos, had they been made available to the public, would have led to arrests that could have stopped 3 to 4 of these later assaults. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
I was attacked at Stonestown at the corner of Citibank out of nowhere. A girl, I didn't see her because it was out of the blue and behind. She tugged me by my hair. She dragged me to the ground. And with a closed fist, she was punching me, hitting my head.
Mina spoke to me on the condition that we not show her face. The 15-year-old says the unprovoked attack involving 4 young girls who appear to be middle school and high school age happened Thursday around 5 p.m. While one girl attacked her, the other 3 used their cell phones to record the assault.
So this local news affiliate interviews one of the alleged victims of this attack. Now, of course, the alleged victim wants to remain anonymous because she is in fear of reprisal, but one of the things that she describes is the fact that she was attacked from behind immediately the fight started, with her hair being pulled, and then she was savagely beaten by an individual who I'm sure she described to the local news affiliate, but they just happened to cut it out, while 3 other girls filmed the whole thing and they were laughing. And again, this is one of the things that I've highlighted on this channel almost as much as anyone. It's called the knockout game, which is when disproportionately black youths decide to attack random people on the street. And the reason it's referred to as a game is because the motivation behind this is for fun. A lot of people like to blame poverty. They say we have to arrest poverty in order to stop criminality. But in reality, if you're just walking up behind a random person that you think is weak, that you think is vulnerable and beating the crap out of them to the cheers of your peers while they're filming it. The villain behind that is not poverty. It's the fact that you think this is fun and acceptable behavior.
I was just on the ground and I was screaming, crying, trying to fight back, but I was very shocked. I was in shock and I was very scared, so I didn't know what to do.
Now look, obviously this girl was scared. She didn't know what to do. They caught her by surprise. She tried to fight back, but again, part of the advantage of being a sucker puncher, of starting the fight prior to informing the other person that they're even in a fight, is that they don't really have time to formulate a response. And with multiple attackers savagely beating her for fun, for entertainment, it is perfectly understandable that she wasn't able to fight back. I mean, after all, this girl is no Jussie Smollett who fought back and sent them off running.
Number 3, I want them to see that I fought back. And I want a little gay boy who might watch this to see that I fought back. And it does not take anything away from people that are not able to do that. But I fought back. They ran off. I didn't.
She just didn't have the strength that Jussie Smollett and, of course, little gay boys have in their pinkies.
I just want young people, young members of the LGBTQ community, young black children to know how strong that they are, to know the power that they hold in their little pinky,
in order to fight off multiple attackers that sneak attack you. Now, we jump to the other local news affiliate segment, and they also interview victims and witnesses. They also want to remain anonymous because they're also afraid of reprisals.
I saw what was 2 people pulling a girl's hair and then punches and kicks on her. And then I quickly saw blood. I saw the attackers shift to a second victim.
So we have a witness who says that 2 girls ended up coming up behind one of the victims. They pulled her hair, started punching and kicking her while she was on the ground. Again, a sneak attack, pure cowardice. And after they beat this girl bloody, they decided it would be a good idea to shift to another victim, and then they implemented the vicious tactics on that other person. And obviously this witness, being a normal person, being someone who's not expecting this kind of violence because they were in an Asian neighborhood, and violence doesn't happen in Asian neighborhoods typically unless it's outsiders doing it, she was obviously shocked and horrified by what went down in this particular case. So we hear from a police official a little later on about the arrests that were made and an admonishment, and honestly, you're going to be incredibly disappointed by what he informs you of.
San Francisco police say in this case, it was a group of teens who attacked 2 unsuspecting people outside of the Hey Tea shop. They arrested a 13 and 14-year-old girl. Both were cited and released to their parents.
An 11-year-old was also implicated in the crime, and that 11-year-old was released and after being admonished.
But that's not the only case. Police are investigating at least 5 apparent unprovoked attacks that began early July involving a group of juveniles with similar suspect descriptions.
So yeah, there's some arrests made in this particular case. However, those arrested were released to the custody of their parents because those suspects happened to be 13 and 14. And then there was an 11-year-old that was also involved who was admonished by the police. They said, hey, don't do that, innocent Beba Angel Aladdin girl. And she was, of course, also released to her parents. So basically, we have almost no consequences for this. And then this local news affiliate is left to speculate on whether or not these suspects who match the description that, by the way, we're not being given as members of the audience who are supposed to be informed by this, were the same suspects behind these other attacks, including specifically a July 11th attack.
They could be the same group that on July 11th around 6 p.m. beat up a 13-year-old crossing the street at Lombard near Mason. The teen's mother wants to remain anonymous, so we're blurring her. She said they were just visiting the city and then she heard her daughter scream.
One girl was wrapping my daughter's hair and hitting continuously to her head. And one girl was filming while other girls were looking.
So we get to hear from the victim's mother in a July 11th case that went down in San Francisco, and then there's speculation from the local news media about whether or not the suspects that were arrested this time happened to be the same suspects that were the ones behind that attack. Now, of course, there should be no mystery about this. They should have informed the victim's mother that they did or they didn't capture those suspects, and the reason why is because guess what? what? This mom actually has one of the few surviving Reddit posts about this particular instance where she posted the photos of the suspects. Here they are. And by the way, this should have been released publicly to the news media, not suppressed by them, not suppressed by the police, not suppressed by platforms like Reddit, because we have multiple different attacks that occurred after this July 11th attack. These are clear photos where you should be able to identify these particular suspects, the alleged attackers, and you should have been able to make contact and make arrests. And if they happen to be the same suspects in all these different various other attacks, that's at least 4 different victims of crimes that could have been prevented had you actually broadcast these particular images.
We just want to find out the reason, and then we want to hopefully get the justice. I just hope more people aware of this.
On July 14th, another woman reported an unprovoked attack on Folsom in Maine. I learned through witnesses and some victims that many of those ambushed are of Asian descent.
You can kind of see, are they targeting Asian women? I don't know, for whatever reason.
Now, I actually found 5 more posts about these ongoing attacks on Reddit that were all removed by the moderators in order to protect the identity of the criminals. And again, it's just absurd that these are potentially anti-Asian attacks, part of the knockout game being done for fun. And in order to fight against evil white racism, Reddit moderators have decided to remove these so we have less information.
But police are stopping short of that.
We have a number of incidents where not everyone matches the similar description. We are looking into a hate aspect. At this time, there is no evidence.
Now, again, we get the same police chief from the other local news segment who says, yeah, we're looking into this. We're looking into hate crime. But right now, there's no evidence because in the city of San Francisco, we don't charge black people with hate crimes because we don't like to actually acknowledge reality. So, of course, they're not going to find any evidence of it. They're not looking for it. They're looking to suppress. And again, I will point out, and this has been described oftentimes as suicidal empathy, the refusal to release surveillance images and a description and photographs, and in fact, the going out of your way to do the opposite and suppress that information led likely, if these are the same perpetrators behind these various attacks, to more victims. So you ended up sacrificing more people as victims because you didn't want to hurt the feelings of a different community. It's absurd. It's insane. And by the way, if you talk to most Black Americans, they don't want serious, ongoing, violent threats to be just wandering around through their communities. So it's not even something that actually helps them. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the local news media covering up crucial information that possibly led to more people being victimized. Till next time.